Welcome. We are here for how is AI changing the recruitment game. Thank you for joining, everybody. I wanted to just take a moment to check in from my perspective on how I was seeing AI change, particularly from the recruiting space. From a recruiter perspective, what are they doing differently that might have you wanting to change the way you are going about your recruiting process? So thank you for being here. My name is Viva. I am the founder of Integral HR and avivawordy.com. Point of this session called the Job Search Lounge is to just hold a space for those looking for a job. It's not an easy place to navigate by yourself, so I wanted to be able to share perspective from being both an HR manager as well as a recruiter with you so that you can navigate your search a little bit more peace. Here we are. So wanted to just start from the top in my, how I like to start is always, what is the history, what I'm seeing, what I'm not seeing, and then how you can make a shift in your practice and how you're navigating things, okay? So big picture, if we step back from historical perspective, 3 big changes that we've seen from a tech space that change the way that we navigate as humans in the workplace, okay? One, bringing you back a little bit, has been personal computers. So if you think about the nature of work before personal computers came in, everything was manual, paper driven. You come into an office and then you have used to personal computers, then being able to take them with you was a really big change to the way that we worked and the way that we did everything. Following that, another big change came through with what we call big data. Okay, so being able to use mass data in order to make decisions. If you think about that from a recruiting space, how do we get better at navigating job descriptions, multiple candidates at one time, pooling information, and utilizing that to make decisions from a recruiting perspective was another big change in the marketplace. And then present day today, where we are being AI. So what is AI and how is it changing in the workplace today? Okay, perfect. So what have I seen AI advance so far? So with AI, being able to be more targeted on your outbound and your outreach, recruiter outreach into, outreach. As a recruiter, I can be more specific, use more filters, and target more appropriate people for the job that I'm searching for. Okay, so that has been helpful with AI because it lets you get a little bit more granular, more filters. It's faster at parsing and understanding maybe what you're looking for. Hey, I'm looking for this marketing manager to do XYZ. Who would match that? Where that has been an advancement. Also seeing job descriptions, right? Being able to be like, hey, go into your favorite AI tool and be like, hey, what would a job description look like for this financial analyst? Okay, and how would I make that more specific for a company that's 50 people or a company that's 100 people or multi-state, right? And then AI being able to give a clearer job description based off of what you're asking for. That has been a shift. Custom interview questions, right? So this is helpful obviously on a recruiter perspective, but also on your perspective. Job opening here as an analyst. What are some good interview questions for me to ask to understand if the candidate could do XYZ? Okay, so that has been an advancement, being able to be more specific with your interview questions based off of the job and the level that you're searching for. Okay, third thing that I'm seeing is just parsing and summarizing. Okay, so this is not like a new thing, but AI is making it so much easier to grab information, or particularly in this case, grab a resume and say, hey, summarize it. Does this candidate have what I'm looking for? What are they trying to say here? And being able to parse and then summarize. And from a recruiter perspective, what I'm seeing happening is that some tools are able to summarize a resume or maybe a cover letter or a profile so that a recruiter can see a snapshot in a faster, more concise way than scanning through an actual resume. Okay, and that fourth space where AI is helping in a recruiter perspective is knowledge. Suggested steps and tips, especially for newer recruiters or for recruiters sometimes taking on a new function or a new role that may be a little bit more technical than a job they were before, really coming to AI and saying, what do I need to know in this space? Particularly, so I'd say product or IT sometimes can be more specific. So what do I need to know in order to effectively recruit for a job? It has been another place that AI has been helpful. Summarizing that from a knowledge perspective and from getting information and specific information faster, it has really been helpful and eye-opening in the recruiting space. what it's not doing yet, I just wanted to obviously share that AI is not yet making effective and efficient hiring decisions. Okay, so on the other end is not AI being like you're hired or you're not hired, or you're qualified or you're not qualified. As a technology, it's not there yet. It's still very much either recruiter, whoever's matching jobs or doing the hiring on the other end is still in the seat. Okay, so it's not, AI is not hiring you yet. AI is not rejecting candidates yet. Anything that is in place is still from a person on the back end putting the appropriate information in. Okay, so just want to make that clear. I have personally not seen it say yes or no to hires before. Okay, what I would say is that what I am seeing it do, so it's not making final decisions, but I have not seen recruiters yet completely make a shift from the way that they were recruiting in the past. So they're not changing up their process. Like I've mentioned before, they're using it to speed up maybe the job posting, the job description process, maybe compensation. So asking, parsing questions, that part of the process is speeding up, but it hasn't changed the way recruiting is handled. From an interview perspective, I've heard that there are tools that instead of maybe recording a video, AI is able to ask you specific questions that you can answer, still feeling a little clunky, and still someone has to input these particular questions in, right? So AI is not running by itself. That's an advancement in the space that I'd be curious to pay attention to, how that continues to advance, and whether from a recruiting process, would you rather have some AI ask you a specific question, or would you rather just continue to film yourself saying what you'd like? So there's definitely a way that it's getting smarter, because if there are questions, recruiter or hiring team is getting specific answers back, which is always a helpful space to be at. And what I'm seeing from new technology and advancements in the HR tech space is that there are a lot of tech tools coming out for very specific niche pain points, right? But I'm not yet seeing a full solution. When I step back and I bring, let's say, a tech stack or the technology and the tools that a company needs to succeed in the recruiting space, it's still a little piecemeal. So I would need to go in from a posting maybe one place, the ATS another place. So it's not yet, I haven't seen it be fully cohesive in a way that would make a change in a big impactful way to the way we recruit. So I would keep watching this space. I do expect that the more new tools that come out and more use cases and more companies that get attrition and have test cases for that to come together. But I do think that we're a year or two out from it being a full, complete story there. So as someone looking for a job, and that's why we're here, what you should continue to pay attention to. And then I have 5 different tips in order to make sure that your resume that you are preparing and are submitting is mirroring the tools and the technology, and then also making sure that it gets to the recruiter on the other end. Okay, ATS, still relevant because it stands for Applicant Tracking System. So, that can look like a few things. That can look like you applying to a job on LinkedIn. In a form, it captures your profile, your resume, and it puts you into a list of, hey, interested in this job. So that could be a form, my version of ATS, but technically it's a tool that holds and tracks who's applied to the job and helps you navigate who has applied, right? So if you think that could be LinkedIn, that could be Indeed. Sometimes companies have their own job boards. Sometimes one company has an ATS that pulls all of those applicants together. Okay, so just think of it as a system that gathers information. What's still very relevant is that it's still the tool that people use. AI enhances an ATS. Okay, so it's not separate or different, it's the same. Qualifying questions. Okay, so if you think about if a job is asking you to put in your information, put in your resume, and then it says, do you have X amount of years of experience? If your answer is no, just so you know, guys, you're going into the not a fit section. Okay, and that's up to the person on the back end, whether they want to see those resumes or not. So if you think about large companies that are getting hundreds, if not thousands of applications, if you're answering no to their qualifying questions, which is basically if you go to the resume and it says must-haves, usually your qualifying questions match that, your resume is not going to be shown. So it's not the right job within reason, right? So if they're saying 10 years, you have 9, it's possible you're going to look, but those are qualifying questions, which basically puts you your application in the no thank you section, and it's not going to get viewed. And there's a big focus now, obviously, on skills and upskilling your talent. So that's like a place where you want to make sure you're focusing, you're paying extra attention in a way that I would have said, not as relevant as it is right now. Okay, so qualifying questions and pay attention to the skills is a nice way to make sure that if you are a match for a job, you are getting by the ATS, you're getting in front of the recruiters, yeah? So when you are putting together your resume, and I would also say, I always say resume, and I also say your LinkedIn, any tool that you are utilizing for your job search, all of this kind of applies. So I'm going to talk to the resume, but tailor it in as such, okay? So one, when you review the job description, focus obviously on what's the job title, keywords, okay? Must-have requirements are 4 things that you want to make sure that you're reading through and you're paying attention to, okay? Great place, just going to apply this to AI, is you could grab that job description, drop it into ChatGPT or Insperity, whatever tool that you use as an AI person. Hey, could you pull out keywords? Could you pull out must-haves and then titles that are very similar to this one in this job description, right? That's a great way for you as an applicant to use and to pull out what's very important to this company based off of this job. Okay, pay attention to those pieces. And then you want to make sure that your resume includes those 4 things. Okay, so from a job title perspective, if it's close, you want to make sure that it's close or it matches up. Manager of social marketing, it could be, you definitely want to make sure that it has the social, or at least if you're a senior manager, you're still good. You want to make sure that it's close enough or relevant enough that it mirrors, if not matches, what the job posting is. Okay, you want to make sure that your keywords are there. So if they're looking for example, let's say I'm talking about social a lot because I'm in that space hiring for that. If you want to make sure that they know how to use, let's say, Instagram and TikTok, then you want to make sure that your resume says that. Okay, job description probably calls it out, and you want to make sure that there's a mirroring happening from a keyword perspective. Must have requirements, and again, that goes back to qualifying questions. Because if they're saying you must have this, high chance that their qualifying questions are based off of what they're looking for. Okay, I go back to managing jobs. They want usually people who have had experience managing before, right? So if you don't have that experience, not going to be qualified. So that's where the must-haves come into qualifying, which gives you a chance for your resume to be seen. So you want to make sure that your resume has those loud and clear based off of the job that you're applying for, okay? Third thing, you want to make sure that your resume is very clean, okay? And it's easy to scan. So if you think about, hey, is this ATS or is this recruiter going to be able to read my resume? It's the same thing with ATSs and tools. They scan through in the same way your eyeballs will. So if you're holding your resume up and you're looking at it, is it easy to read? Could you really quickly see what jobs you've had, what industries you've been in, what you've done impactfully, really fast and easy? If the answer is no, I always recommend, when I do resumes, I literally pull out any formatting. I go clean doc and I start from there. And then if it's a personal preference, you can add a little color, a little formatting, but too much formatting or like a complex template really just detracts from the ease of finding. And I would also say the ease of parsing, or any tool that's doing the scanning for, might be missed. Okay, so you want to make sure that your format is clean and easily scannable with your eyes. Okay, so again, just complex, pull it out. I think the only place that I see sometimes having maybe a more intricate, detailed, beautiful resume might be if you're in the design space. They might want to see that you have something design or any sort of creative space, but I do say keep the resume. My recommendation there is still keep the resume clean and impactful, have a portfolio or another way of showing your creativity, because it detracts a little bit. Okay. Fourth thing to pay attention to is you want your resume sections to be loud and clear. So work, education, and I'm going to say skills. I used to pull out the skill headline because I'd be like, it's not as important. But now that companies are really focusing on what skills you have, how are we up-leveling our current team, conversations really going around to what is the work and what do we need people to have and the skills to have in order to do work, and then hire for skills versus for experience. My recommendation is to add that back in. Okay, so have clearly skills. Those skills, if you have the ones that are on the job description, you want to make sure that those are there loud and clear so that resume or whoever's looking at your resume can pull that out. Okay, so that goes to that clean and clear section. Sometimes you see it on the side. It's where your eyeball's going. Are they gonna see it? How important is it for this job? And that fifth one, guys, PDF. That should be your format. PDF your resume, name it, put your name loud and very clearly, make it a PDF so that any system, any type of computer, any software can literally open up your resume. I know that's sometimes an obvious one, but sometimes it's not. PDF is just so much easier and it opens loud and clear on all tools. So that would be save it and submit it in that format just to give yourself the best shot. I have been on the other end of resumes opening, taking forever to open. I work on a Mac, not a PC, or sometimes the formatting gets wonky because it's coming from a Word into a Mac, and then it's just like, where am I looking? And if I'm going through hundreds of resumes, as much as I'm compassionate on the other end, I'm like, gosh, this is just not as thoughtful, right? You want to be thoughtful to who's opening it and how fast they can find out that you're the right candidate or not. Okay, so just high level, those are my tidbits. My takeaway is don't focus so much on in recruiting, focus on clarity, focus on formatting, focus on resumes being precise and ease. How fast, I always go back to how fast can the person looking at your resume understand who you are, what you do, and how awesome you are. So if you continue to focus on those three things, AI, even if it advances in this space, won't stop you from getting to the jobs that you want. Final thought there is don't apply to 100 jobs. You're not qualified for 100 jobs. If you spend the time to be more specific and clear on your resume and apply to jobs that you know the qualifying questions are yes, and you know that you have the skills and the work experience, go ahead that way, especially if you're navigating what I call like a traditional process where you are applying to jobs versus networking in or coming into a company where you were referred in. That changes it a little bit, but that's because you're getting an in-person conversation probably sooner than you are in a traditional method. So thank you guys for listening. I hope that helps. Feel free to reach out, message if you have any questions. Spend a lot of time creating resumes, reviewing resumes, and hiring. And my wish for you is just, apply to the jobs that you want so that you can get the job that you want. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you guys soon.